Hello, hello, welcome. My name is Lara, and I'm so excited that you are joining me for the Body Freedom Matters workshop. So let me know in the comments where you are dialing in from. So today we are going to learn how to improve body image. And this workshop is for absolutely anyone who is ready to swap their negative body image for a much more positive one so they can feel more confident in their skin, to be able to live with freedom and joy in your body, and to appreciate your body every time you look in the mirror. It's also for people who want to be able to stop comparing yourself with others because you're happy with who you are. There's absolutely no need to compare anymore. Now, this training isn't for you if you're not ready to let go of the old thinking, the old mindset that might be holding you back, because we're going to talk a lot about mindset today. So hello and welcome. I'm Lara. It's so nice to meet you if we haven't met before. And I really love helping women heal their relationship with food and body image, because I spent most of my adult life with a really terrible relationship with food and my body image. But after learning a lot of what we'll talk about today, things are very different. And I feel so much more confident in my skin, appreciate my body when I look in the mirror. So all that good stuff. And I love helping people get to that space too, to the point where they can feel confident in their own skin. So if you don't follow me on social media, I'm really easy to find. You can find me at Dr. Lara Zib on Instagram, Pinterest, and also YouTube. And pop me a hello if you find me over there. Now, it was when I was on holiday in Croatia. I was lying on this sun lounger right there, looking at that beautiful view. And I had a huge light bulb moment. And my light bulb moment was this: looking around at all the people who are also on holiday as well, I saw two groups of women. And I ended up labeling them either the puff and strut women or the hide and shuffle women. And I guess the clue's kind of in the name, but there were the women who puffed out their chests and kind of strutted around in their bikinis, like not really caring about what people thought of them and not really giving it a second thought. They just got up and strutted around. Now, the opposite end of the scale, there were who I called the hide and shuffle, and they were hiding themselves. They held themselves really differently. They were sort of a bit more insular, a bit more covering. They'd put a sarong around themselves before they got up to walk. Really, really different. Now, in case you thought that that was how I went on holiday, actually, that's kind of what my sun lounger looked like most of the time. That peaceful, serene photo in the previous image wasn't quite the actual reality. But it was on this sun lounger that I had that epiphany. And this was it. That body image isn't about a person's shape or size, because the puff and strut group were from all different shapes and sizes. It wasn't like one group looked different to the other. So body image isn't about shape and size. It's actually more about mindset and perception. So my question to you is, are you ready to work on your mindset and perception so that you can improve your body image as well, so that you can be more like the puff and strut group than the hide and shuffle group? So give me a thumbs up or a hell yeah in the comments if that's you. Now, I want to first explore, how is your body image formed throughout your life? And there's no way of talking about body image without talking about diet culture, because diet culture is something that negatively impacts our body image from a really, really young age. And actually, there's research to suggest that kids as young as 6 and 7 are impacted by diet culture. And it's all around us. It's like being a fish in the sea. The sea is that diet culture. So what actually is diet culture? So it's basically this rigid set of beliefs, norms, and expectations that value thinness or a certain look So it might not necessarily be skinny, but it could be the strong but skinny look. But it values a certain aesthetic over your mental health and emotional well-being. So within diet culture, it often emphasizes things like that there is a certain look, that foods need to be categorized as either good, quote unquote good, or bad, that we should restrict our food. And it also very much normalizes self-deprecating self-talk. So I don't know how many times you've been chatting with someone and you say something like, oh, I could never wear that. Or, you know, if I want to go onto the beach, I'm going to have to do something about this. So there's real self-deprecation, and that's definitely part of diet culture. Diet culture is toxic, right? And it is known, there is research that shows that it negatively impacts people's body image, because what diet culture forces us to do is it focuses us on our flaws, or supposed flaws, because really it's diet culture telling us that they are flaws in the first place. But it's also a risk factor for things like body dysmorphia, when you have a completely warped perception of what your body looks like. It's a risk factor for disordered eating, for eating disorders, and other mental health issues. So how does it impact your body image? So within diet culture, there's this assumption that there's a perfect body. And we all know what this perfect body is about, because we see it in social media, we see it on movies, it's in the press, it's celebrities. They are the women, the tall women with long toned legs. They've got lean arms, probably at the moment they've got toned abs, flawless skin. You don't generally see anyone really above the age of 30. There's no cellulite, there's no wrinkles. It's kind of this vision of quote unquote perfection. And the thing is that we see this image day in, day out, probably more so now with social media and our access to images. And we compare and we look at that image and we think, well, I'm not that like that image. We compare ourselves, and so we start to feel bad. We start to feel like we aren't measuring up to this ideal, this quote unquote ideal, because we're never enough. We are either too old, I'm too old, or we're too thin, or we are too fat, or we're too muscly, too feminine, too masculine, not muscly enough, not toned enough, no toned abs, too much cellulite, etc., etc. Basically, we're never enough compared to this ideal. And it impacts us when we are receiving those messages day in, day out. And it starts to impact how we think about ourselves. Our self-esteem is impacted, our mood is impacted, our happiness is impacted. And apparently, over 90% of women are unhappy with their body. And that might be you. That might really resonate. You might think, yeah, that's me. And then a further stat shows that 54% would rather get knocked down by a bus than put on weight. And that for me is like, wow. Because diet culture is teaching you to base your worth on your shape or your appearance. We miss out on fun times. Maybe we don't want to get into a bikini, so we miss, a fun swim in the sea with our family. We hold back when we have to expose our skin. We worry about fitting into a certain dress size. We worry about our wrinkles, our cankles, our cellulite, our facial hair, our toe hair, our body hair, all the supposed flaws that we are told about day in, day out, our pouchy tummies, our sagginess. Basically, we're told over and over and over again that our bodies aren't good enough and we need to change. So when you're receiving that messaging, it's no wonder people that I work with have a negative perception of their body image. But I want you to know that this thin ideal that we're seeing everywhere is culturally driven, especially in certain countries, and it's not the standard across all countries. And it's also something that is really only of this time. If we go back 150 years, it wasn't the case that thin was in. And if we go to other places on Earth at the moment, it still isn't in. So a quick story here. When I grew up in Kenya, in East Africa, and it was considered a great honor to be told that you're fat. And I remember going for a massage once, and the masseuse declared to me, she said, "Oh, it's so wonderful. You've put on weight since the last time I saw you." And she thought she was giving me the biggest compliment at the time. I didn't think it was a compliment. So in some cultures, this idea of being in a larger body is seen as a really positive thing, and it used to be as well in the UK and a lot of Western countries, because it showed that you were rich and powerful, that you had enough money in order to buy food to feed your family. So I want you to know that this ideal body type that we see today has changed. It's changed tremendously over the last 100 years. In fact, it's almost like fashion. So what was in and fashionable in the 1920s isn't the same in the 2020s. And it would be impossible for you to keep up with these changing trends because it's just impossible. And let me just highlight that with this picture. If we look through the ages, I tried to capture women from different ages. I'm just going to close my blinds here because I've got sun in my eyes. It's lovely, but it's in my eyes. So if we look through the ages, we can see that in the 1920s, women were beautiful if they were flat-chested with narrow hips. In the 1930s, there was a bit more curve going on. That was a bit more fashionable. In the 1950s, it was a bit more about the hourglass figure. So you think about certain key people at the time. In the 1960s, I mean, you only have to think about the 1960s. You think about Twiggy, that I guess one of the first supermodels, but she was very petite, had very narrow hips. So Slim Twiggy, that's what she was called, was in. Then we got to the 1980s, and we were, that was the rise of the supermodel. People were a bit more toned. It was about working out. Just think of Jane Fonda. By the 1990s, we were back to that waif look. You just need to think about that whole heroin chic thing that was going on. And then the 2000s were more about kind of exposing your midriff. And then now, more recently, it's been about being slim, but more about being toned. So you need to have your butt, your glutes, and your abs and big boobs as well, but also slim overall. So the fashion has changed so much over the years, and these are the supposed beauty ideal, but one single person could never be all of those things because they're focusing on different body types. And so we need to realize and understand that it's a fashion, it's a trend that happens over the years. Now, also really importantly, not only is skinny culturally driven, but it is not equal to health. This is something that I just want you to go away with in this workshop, is knowing that skinny does not equal health. So despite diet culture telling us that it's important to be thin, being skinny does not mean you're healthier. In fact, there is a whole host of research that suggests otherwise. Having fat in your body does not mean you're unhealthy. You can be in a larger body and be extremely healthy on all measures aside from weight. And you can also be in a smaller body and be unhealthy. Now, we need to decouple this idea that weight and health are equal. In fact, there's a really interesting study done in 2016 that found that unfit, skinny people were twice as likely to get diabetes than people who are in larger bodies but fit. And the researchers came to the conclusion that it was habits, not size, that counted. And I actually read something today in an article about Zac Efron. So Zac Efron, most people know who he is. He's an actor, and he was famously in Baywatch, and he had to do some very extreme things to get the body that he got. And he's just come out saying that being on such a restrictive, disordered regime made him really depressed and basically burnt out. And he said that actually having such a low body fat was really bad for him. Now, we might look at that body and think it's the epitome of health, But actually, his experience shows us that looking at someone, you cannot tell how healthy they are just by looking at them. And he was, if we take a mental health perspective, very unhealthy. And that's the thing, is that diet culture has messed with us for so many ways. It messes with our body image. It shows us that this kind of certain look is what we should be attaining. It encourages us to restrict, to go on diets, to create very disordered relationship with food. But at the end of the day, everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and respect because they're humans, not because of their size. So what I want to do now is get into some of the nitty-gritty, some of the exercises to like really explore about your body image. So we have looked at the role of diet culture in this. I think we cannot separate the impact that diet culture has on it. But what I want to do now is explore the role that core beliefs have. And you should have received your mindset sheet. I want you to make sure that you have that with you. Download it and follow along. So you can either use the mindset sheet as prompt, or you can write it straight onto the mindset sheet. So let's talk about core beliefs then. So you may or may not have heard about core beliefs before, but they're basically internalized messages that we hold very close to us. We see them as true, and they're beliefs that we have about ourselves, about other people, and about the world around us. So they're the lens that we see absolutely everything through. Now, you're not born with them. They are things that we are taught over the years and things that we slowly internalize. So you may, as a child, you're more likely to take these beliefs on. So you might have been brought up in an environment that had lots of really positive messages. So maybe from family or teachers. So you grow up with this belief that you can kind of do anything, and you grow up with a real resilience. On the other end of the scale, you might remember comments from caregivers, teachers, parents, that kind of thing. And some meant unintentionally. So little flyaway comments that people have said. They might have made a comment about your clothing size, or that you shouldn't eat seconds. So what happens is you start internalizing these viewpoints from other people, and they become your belief. So if you are constantly having comments about your weight, how you eat, your appearance, your size, then you might internalize this belief that in order to be loved, you need to be a certain size, and that can set you off down years and years of trying to change your appearance. So going on diets because you felt that in order to receive love, you need to be thin. And there's also certain events that can trigger it. So you might have formalized these core beliefs as a child, but then later in life, things trigger it. So maybe shopping. This used to trigger me personally. So if you go into shops, and this is classic, we know that clothing size can be really like wide ranging. In one place, you can be a certain size, and then in another place, you can be 3 sizes bigger. So that might trigger you. So if you're going in certain shops and you're having to buy clothes size that are 2 sizes bigger than somewhere else, that might trigger you and make you feel negative about your body, because maybe you've linked your worthiness to your size. And so if you're going up a size, it makes you feel less worthy. Now, the problem is with these core beliefs is that they become stuck, and they become what you play over in your head over and over. And they become something that overshadows everything you do. Now, what we need to do, so in today, in this core belief exercise, what we're trying to do is shine a light on your core beliefs, because that helps us understand, number one, where they've come from. Like, where did that core belief from? How did I end up thinking that I need to be thinner in order to be more worthy? That helps us address them, because if we haven't identified them, then we don't know that they're there. So we're trying to identify them, shine a light on them, address them, and then challenge them. Now, my big sort of caveat here is that this process can be a little bit painful. It can bring up emotions. It can make you feel bad about yourself. It can maybe make you relive some of what you've been through. But it's really important work to move forward. So don't skip through this. I want you to really go through this and take some time to really go through these exercises. And if you need to come back after or pause this, please do. So my first question in the core belief exercise is, what were your thoughts about your body and shape or size, body shape or size whilst you were growing up? So I want you to really think back to comments that you received at home or at school. So maybe you were put on a diet at a certain age, or maybe food was restricted in the house, or maybe you had rules around like clean plate. You must eat all your broccoli before you're allowed anything else. Maybe you had just had comments from like classmates or something, or someone, said something nasty when you wanted seconds, or the fact that you wore a bigger clothes size. Maybe you got some comments about your body or your shape. Now, the interesting thing is, what I want you to also think about is not only things that were said to you or done directly to you, things that teachers said, things that happened at home and so on. I also want you to think about what you observed happening. So what did you see your parents doing, or caregivers, your grandparents, your aunts? You might not have received any negative comments directly, but maybe your mom was always dieting, or maybe she pulled herself apart when she looked in the mirror. Maybe she said really negative things about herself, but in your opinion, she was lovely. Or maybe you aren't. Maybe your beautiful, attractive aunt was always on diets. That was the case for me. Maybe your dad was controlling around what he ate. So maybe he had little stock phrases that he said, those silly little phrases like, moment on the lips, lifetime on the hips. Maybe there were little things like mantras and that kind of thing that happened, that was said at home, not necessarily directed at you, but that was like the culture of your home environment. And I really want you to take some time with this. Like, really think back, because this is what's helped you create this core belief that to be lovable, you need to be thin. So the message is very clear. You've received this message over and over that your body is wrong and that you're not lovable until you achieve a certain shape or size. Now, the second question I really want you to consider: did you feel that losing weight or changing your shape will make you a better person? So the core belief here is that thin is more worthy, that you're going to have a better life when you get to this certain shape or size. And to be honest, this idea is absolutely everywhere. So it might have been stuff, again, that your parents said at home, or that they said to you, lose a bit of weight and then you can date, or something like that. But it's also what we see in social media, in adverts. There is this implicit or explicit assumption that that person changes and then they get the man of their dreams, or they get married. So many films revolve around this. Think about if you watched Friends growing up, think about the message that we received about Monica in Friends. So the question to you is, do you feel and believe that you're worthy of health and happiness and everything in the here and now? Because these damaged self-worth and body image, these feelings can lead to even more feelings of hopelessness, of worthlessness. There'll be negative self-talk, guilt and shame when eating. So again, I really want you to take some time to consider this question and ask yourself, like, where did this come from? Where have you received this from? And so I kind of already said this, but the point of identifying your core beliefs is first to find out that is a core belief that you have, to challenge them, and then to offer a different perspective. And I really honestly recommend affirmations. They might seem a little woo-woo to you, but there's some things, they're like mantras that you can repeat over and over to yourself. I have a blog on this. That's the link there. So I really recommend going and having a look at this. So, but at the same time, I want you to challenge it. So your shape and size might be tied up with your self-worth. So I want you to really consider this. Are you going to be a better person if you lose weight? Really? The answer is often no. Is thin really better? would it really be better for you? So these are things to challenge, to consider, and use affirmations to just sway your thoughts, to think about things in a slightly different way. Now, the thing is, we have come to this place with diet culture, this consensus that the way to get people to change is to shame them into action. And now that we've talked about body image and where it comes from, diet culture, your core beliefs, I want to talk about acceptance, because shame can really backfire. You may have spent a long time with those core beliefs, thinking negatively about yourself and then saying really negative things. You might have called yourself really horrible things like get off the sofa, you bleep bleep, thinking that you're going to motivate yourself into action. Now, this comes from diet culture because you hear the no pain, no gain and all the kind of thing that comes from the like toxic fitness culture. But shame backfires. You actually might be worried that doing this workshop is a problem, because if you accept your body as it is now, then you'll be complacent, you'll get stuck, and you'll never move towards something different. Maybe you feel a sense of loathing about your body. And maybe you think that actually you do need that self-hatred to motivate yourself. But actually, the truth is that hate stops you from changing. Change only comes about when you value yourself enough and you care about yourself enough to improve your life. And that actually starts with having a better relationship with your body. Because the better you feel about yourself, the better choices you're going to make. So it's the little habits. So maybe starting walking, or to quit smoking, or do a sort of joyful form of exercise rather than a form of punishment, or to eat in order to nourish your body rather than restricting because you had a big meal yesterday. So we're going to talk through some mindset exercises. Again, you can go through this in your mindset sheet to focus a little bit more on body acceptance, because we want to come to a point where you value yourself, because that's when you can move forward and make changes that will actually work and lead to better health outcomes. So make sure you've got access to your mindset sheet. You can work along with me. There are some tick boxes for you to tick, and I want you to consider, did you believe that you would gain something from being smaller? So I've heard this so many times, and I know I've said it myself. When I'm thin, then I will ... You know, be more attractive, find someone special, be more adventurous, get the job I want, quit whatever it is, quit this, or start doing this, swim more. So take some time to tick everything that resonates with you, but also take some time at the bottom to add anything else. What did you believe you would gain from being smaller? Because when you realize that you have tied so much to the idea of being different, of being smaller, it's no wonder that changing your body is so important, because you've maybe created this belief that you'll finally be able to do everything that I want. As soon as this happens, as soon as I've lost that 10 pounds, then I can go and do all these wonderful things. So you've tied a lot of your happiness and your worthiness in with this idea of when I'm thin, then I will. So we want to get to the point where you're accepting your body. And accepting your body isn't just about accepting yourself physically, how you look, but it's about accepting who you are today, so that you can start living life fully right now in whatever body you have, because waiting around to the perfect time is just wasting your life. Now, I want to do 2 mindset exercises that focus on accepting yourself. And these are all to move you to a place where you accept yourself as you are, regardless of your shape and size, and also regardless of how you look or what other people say, because I want you to remember that you are so much more than just a body. You are so much more than that. Your body isn't you. You are way, way more than just your body. So let's start with this mindset exercise. Now, I'll say again, if you need to pause this and work on this in more depth, please do. I want you to really spend the time going through these mindset exercises. So there are some options to tick of the kinds of things that you might see yourself as: creative, passionate, artistic, kind, compassionate. I want you to go through and tick everything on the page that applies to you. And I want you to write down any other attributes that you feel are you as well. So that aren't to do with how you look. Because what I want you to be able to see is that you are more than a body. Your generosity, your kindness, your compassion, your passion for things, the way you're hardworking, all of those are things that are about you and not your body. So the next exercise I want to do, again, focusing on different attributes, but this time you can focus on physical and non-physical attributes. I would like you to write a list of everything that you like about yourself. So like I say, physical, non-physical, things about you as a person. It might be that you really love your wavy hair or the color of your eyes, maybe the length of your eyelashes or your fingernails. Maybe you're someone who's got lovely, strong fingernails. Maybe you really like your feet or your lips or your, I don't know, your teeth, your straight teeth, or your strong arms. I want you to write down all those things, but I also want you to talk about other attributes as well. So your kindness, your creativity, your passion. So it might be building on some of the ones from the previous mindset exercise. And I really want you to spend a full 5 minutes doing this. So I've really only spoken for about 30 seconds to a minute now, but I really want you to spend a good amount of time thinking about everything that you can put on this, everything that you like about yourself. And it could be about how quickly you make friends, how you are being so successful, or how you're so successful at work. Those kinds of things can go there as well. So this exercise is about showing you that there are things about yourself that you like, both physical and other attributes as well. And I would really encourage you to come back to this exercise time and time again. If you're ever feeling down on yourself, come back and write down everything that you like about yourself, everything that you're proud of. And that helps, again, kind of shift your mindset to focus on something more positive. Now, I want to move on and talk about self-care, because in my work and my experience is that a lot of people with negative body image are not looking after themselves. And self-care helps you prioritize both your physical and your mental health. And I came across this quote, and it's so true, because it's a necessity in life. It's not something we should see as a luxury. Self-care is really important. And also self-care looks different for different people. Because for you, self-care may be something completely different to what self-care is for me. So it's about prioritizing your physical and your mental health, but it could be hobbies that you do. You might be into gardening or knitting or cross stitch. There might be certain activities you do, maybe walking or yoga or meditating, certain mindset approaches that you have, mindfulness practice that you have, or breathing practice that you have. Now, what feels really comforting to you might be really draining for someone else. So it's really about finding something that works. And I want to make it so clear that self-care is not selfish. So I used to have this very warped opinion that self-care was something that was very selfish, that I wasn't worthy of it, and that everyone else came first. But often we need to work out what fills our cup up. And especially if you are a caregiver, if you're a parent who are looking after someone else in your family, then being able to make sure that you fill your cup up is really important. Now, the research is clear that if you engage in self-care practices, you will be more happy, you will be less stressed, you'll have more energy. It's related to better long-term health. You also have healthier coping mechanisms and a better emotional regulation, so you can just cope with the ups and downs of life. So I want to do a couple of exercises that get you thinking about self-care, that get you thinking about this topic and this concept. And like I said before, if you need to pause this video, please do, and make sure you give it the time and attention that it deserves. So again, you need to be using your mindset sheet. So mindset exercise number 3, what do you love? I want you to list everything that you love. So it could be people, objects, things to do, hobbies, characteristics. You might say, well, I love kindness, or I love love, or I love walking around the block, or I love crafting. I love this mug, or I love my partner. So you want to write down all the things that are things that you love. And again, I would really recommend spending 5 minutes on this. Like, set the timer, keep going. Again, I've probably only spoken for about a minute or so. Pause me, come back to me. And I want you to just keep writing of all the things that you can think of that you love. Keep the ideas flowing. Now, I'm assuming that you've paused and unpaused me, and hopefully you've written for 5 minutes now. I want you to look at the list. In that list of people, objects, activities, hobbies, and characteristics, and anything else that you came up with, where did you write yourself in that list? Did you have your name on that list? Did you write yourself down as someone you love? Now, full disclosure, the first time I did this exercise, I did it at an event that I was at, and I did this exercise. I did it for the full 5 minutes. I wrote down a ton of stuff, and nowhere in this list was me. I didn't write my name. I didn't write me. I didn't write anything. But we should be on our own lists. If I'm asking you to say, list all the things you love, you should be there as well. And I want you to consider what that means if you were one of those people that didn't put yourself down on that list. Now, the final thing I want to do today, and this is perhaps the most important thing, is really thinking about self-care. So it's a self-care assessment. It covers 5 areas. So there's physical, there's emotional, psychological, relationships, spiritual, and boundaries. And there's a few pages of it and things to tick. Now, I might not have put down all the things that you consider are important in these categories. So I want you to tick the ones that apply and then add anything else that you feel is important. And pause again if you need a little bit of time just to go through and make sure that you've ticked off everything that that you're doing at the moment. So now that you've ticked it, I'm assuming you paused me and you come back to me. Now that you've ticked it all off, I want you to look at it honestly and ask yourself, have you got self-care regimes currently in place? Are you actually looking after yourself right now? And then answer, like, why is this the case? Why are you not a priority on your self-care list, your list of self-care? And then I guess importantly, ask yourself, what can I implement? What out of these 5 areas can I focus on? Where can I devote a bit of time to self-care in one of these 5 areas? So improving body image is really about mindset and perception. And I've given you quite a few exercises today, some specifically focused on body image, some perhaps a little bit more broad. But the purpose of this is to give you some tools and exercises and techniques, things that you can come back to over and over, things that will help you shift your mindset and perception. And I want you to know that this journey to body freedom is about progress and not perfection. There's only so much that you can cover in a 45-minute workshop, but I hope that that's given you some tools and techniques that you can take away and explore and consider. I'd also really love to share with you now some of the other freebies and programs that I have that might help you with healing your relationship with food and your body image. And I actually see these as quite, they're similar, aren't they? So often people with bad body image also have a negative relationship with food. They're quite entwined. They overlap a lot. And what I found in my coaching practice is that when people work on food and body image, healing their relationship with both of those, it kind of comes together and works together to really be very successful. So what next? What can I offer? So I can offer you some freebies, and I also have some paid programs as well. So the very first freebie that I have is a free food freedom masterclass. It's literally just 35 minutes. And it's about helping you create a healthy and happy relationship with food. It gives you some strategies, some advice, and some tips. Very easy to find it if you go to my website, drlarazib.com, and then it's /masterclass. There's also a link to it on my website if you want to head over there. So that's a freebie that I can offer you. I also have a paid program that is all about creating a healthy and happy relationship with food. So this is all about food freedom. Now, that Release Body Shame, which is the part 2 in this program, is actually quite similar to some of the stuff that we've done today. So I took some of the exercises from the Release Body Shame section and put them in this workshop. And there's many more as well, so about releasing body shame. But it's got 5 parts to it: ditching diet culture, releasing body shame, tuning into your body, learning how to eat intuitively, and creating a health mindset for life that means that everything that you learn is sustainable forever, for life. The other thing that I have, and this is specifically for anyone who is an emotional eater. So if you're an emotional eater and you want to go from feeling out of control around food, that out of control emotional eating, so feeling in charge and confident around food, this is absolutely for you. Sorry, I should have said on the previous slide, that's a link to go and have a look at a bit more information, drlarazib.com/my-course. And this is specifically just about emotional eating, so overcoming emotional eating, and that is the link to go and have a look at more information, drlarazib.com/OEE. And then a couple more free things, so more freebies. So if you want to do a quick quiz to find out your eating personality style, that's on my website /quiz. Or if specifically you're interested in the emotional eating part, then /EE quiz, emotional eating quiz. So those are free to do. They take like 2 minutes to complete, and you get the feedback afterwards. So, it's something that you can quickly find out what your eating personality style is, or about emotional eating. And then the other thing is that I would love to recommend some fantastic books. Now, I love reading books. These are 4 that I've read that are absolutely awesome for helping you improve your body image and healing that relationship with your body image. More Than a Body, Body Positive Power, You Are Not a Before Picture, and The Body Is Not an Apology. All fantastic, fantastic book. I've actually linked to them in the mindset sheet, so you can just have a look there as well. So that is everything today, and I want to thank you again so much for being here. I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found those exercises helpful for learning how to improve your body image, healing that relationship with your body. Now, if you have any questions, you can email me on lara@drlarazib.com, or if you're following me on any of my socials, just message me on there. I'm probably more responsive either on email or Instagram if you want to find me. And I just want to say thank you again so much, and message me. I always reply to my messages, and it's always from me personally. Bye for now.